In a world of capitulating universities, craven broadcast companies, and absolutely evil politicians, you have a choice. We have a choice. And that choice is to be like Trey Parker and Matt Stone, the creators of and I should say owners, but I think Paramount actually owns the property, but the creators of South Park, the cartoon. Now, South Park, I think, has been putting out episodes for like 26, 27 years. And what you should know is that the contract was highly in dispute until a few days ago. So you might be following the fact that Donald Trump got a little money in order to, it's very corrupt. And I actually believe it is, I do believe it is evidence of an illegal bribe, which I think would not be subject to immunity. But that aside, Donald Trump got a little sweetener, got some free, lots of free advertising on CBS, isn't standing in the way of this Skydance takeover or merger with Paramount, which owns CBS, right? But right before that deal went through, Ellison, David Ellison, who's the son of the rich, he's basically not a failed son, but a success son of Larry Ellison, founder of Oracle, right? So this is Nepo baby from Silicon Valley, owns an enterprise called Skydance, is taking over Paramount. And that is why we believe Stephen Colbert, the most successful late night host, got fired. So let's bring this to the fact that Comedy Central is where South Park airs. And right before last night's premiere episode of South Park for this season, the owners of South Park, Trey Parker and Matt Stone, inked a deal for $1.5 billion with a B dollars to continue this. And they had been in a huge dispute, apparently, with both Skydance and Paramount about the terms of this. And they got more than I think what they had wanted in the first place. So keep in mind that they knew Colbert had been canceled. Keep in mind that they were just handed this huge flippin' bucket of money. I want to share with you what this episode was that they showed. And before I show you the clip, I want to point out to you that, this is what you're looking at. South Park depicts Donald Trump in bed with Satan in the season 20 premiere. Are you ready? I am fully ready. Let's go. Oh my God. This is like the third time I've watched that this morning. The song at the beginning, the lyrics are faith and vibes, pretty cool. And at the end, come on, Satan. Yeah, Donald Trump is not going to be happy about this. So that makes me happy. And it makes me happy because at the end of the day, I'm not sure that anyone will actually face justice for these crimes against children and young women. There are hundreds of high-profile people identified in the Epstein files, including Donald Trump. And this was confirmed once again yesterday by both the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times. And what's important here, and this is, you might be saying, well, we know that he's named there because that's what Allison Gill reported. And you might say, and that's what we heard out of, I want to say it's Dick Durbin, but I don't think it is. There was a senator who wrote a letter, Allison mentions, and the senator reported out to us that there were 1,000 people combing through the Epstein files and had begun flagging Donald Trump's name. So we kind of already knew that, but that was not major news organizations. That was not reported out by Wall Street Journal and New York Times. So let me be clear to you. I want to be clear to you what the most important part of the Wall Street Journal reporting is. That it was in May that Pam Bondi and her team, probably, I think, Todd Blanche, who's the deputy attorney general with her, that Pam Bondi and her team, Pam, the attorney general, in May, met with Donald Trump to tell him, hey, we've reviewed the Epstein files, and your name is mentioned multiple times. That happened in May. And last week, when Donald Trump was asked about this, he literally denied it. He was asked whether he had been told that he was in the Epstein files, and he said no. So let me give you the updated reporting, and then I'm going to share with you Donald Trump's denial. So let me give you the reporting, and then we're going to run through why this is such a significant bit of information.
Obviously, we do have some new reporting into CNN, and this is, well, it's a story from the Wall Street Journal. The Wall Street Journal is reporting that in May, Attorney General Pam Bondi and her deputy informed the president at a meeting in the White House that his name was in the Epstein files. This is reporting now in the Wall Street Journal. We should note that CNN has not independently confirmed that information.
Okay, that was that reporting in the Wall Street Journal. I was right in the first place. It was Dick Durbin who had written the letter. Dick Durbin wrote the letter to Pam Bondi July 18th. Okay, so just yesterday, we have the Wall Street Journal confirming that Donald Trump knew in May, that he was in those Epstein files, even though he denied it, right? He had denied it just as recently as last week. He was literally asked, I think he was on his way to an airplane. He's standing with Carolyn Leavitt, said, did Pam Bondi inform you, or the Department of Justice brief you on the fact that you were in the files? And he said, no. Okay, so obviously he's lying about that. And I want you to follow this with me. There has been weird stuff going down at the Department of Justice ever since May, and at the FBI. Now, you remember Kash Patel is FBI director, and you know that his deputy is Dan Bongino. Dan Bongino, on May 30th, was freaking out on Fox News. Remember that? I have that clip for you. Let me play that.
I gave up everything for this. I mean, you know, my wife is struggling. I'm not a victim. I'm not Jim Comey. It's fine. I did this, and I'm proud I did it. But if you think we're there for tea and crumpets, well, I mean, Cash is there all day. We share it. Our offices are linked. He turns on the faucet. I hear it. He's there he gets in at like 6 o'clock in the morning. He doesn't leave till 7 at night. You know, I'm in there at 7:30 in the morning. He uses the gym. I work out in my apartment. But I stare at these four walls all day in D.C., you know, by myself, divorced from my wife. Not divorced, but I mean separated, divorced. And it's hard. I mean, you know, we love each other, and it's hard to be apart.
But you're doing some great work. You straighten out it. Yeah.
So I wonder, did Cash know what Donald Trump knew? Did Bongino know at that time? It's not clear to me. But there's been additional reporting in the New York Times that makes me think Bongino is not only caught on, but might be leaking information. Now I got to add to this, right? And let me just say, I began today's show with us laughing at Donald Trump because our laughter and our standing up to him really matters, because we are also laughing and mocking and condemning the people who would rather participate in the cover-up of a pedophile ring than dare to stand against this disgusting, terrible, idiotic regime. Okay, so I want to share with you now, just so you we get the feel. It's not all laughter. I want to share with you a smoking gun kind of video that has reappeared. This is an interview with Jeffrey Epstein back in, I believe it is in connection with his, based on what I'm looking at, I think it's in connection with the first investigation of him. I want you to listen carefully to what he has to say.
Ever had a personal relationship with Donald Trump?
I'm sorry. This says it's in 2010. So I'm not sure why this is March of 2010, given that he was in prison in 2008. So whatever is going on here, there must have been some kind of further investigation. Let's play this.
Have you ever had a personal relationship with Donald Trump?
What do you mean by personal?
Oh, I'm sorry. This probably was in connection with a civil litigation, is my guess, a deposition type. Okay, here we go. Let's try this again.
Have you ever had a personal relationship with Donald Trump?
What do you mean by personal relationships?
Have you socialized with him?
Yes, sir.
Yes?
Yes, sir.
Have you ever socialized with Donald Trump in the presence of females under the age of 18?
Though I'd like to answer that question, at least today, I'm going to have to assert my 5th, 6th, and 14th Amendment rights, sir.
Okay. I'm hearing that this was part of this Filthy Rich documentary on Netflix. This had surfaced. Okay. He is deciding to assert his privilege against self-incrimination, which is something someone could do. They could also just say no, or I don't recall. But did you listen to the question? Let's just listen
Had a
again.
personal relationship with Donald Trump?
What do you mean by personal relationships?
Have you socialized with him?
Yes, sir.
Okay, he said, yes, I socialized with him. Fine.
Yes?
Yes, sir.
Have you ever socialized with Donald Trump in the presence of females under the age of 18?
Though I'd like to answer that question.
So you saw him grin. Now, of course, he has socialized with Donald Trump in the presence of females under 18. That might, I mean, we know it's terrible stuff that he was doing, but even if Donald Trump wasn't participating, Epstein had children around him all the time. We are hearing reporting, and this is, and I'm going to share some of this with you from an interview with a lawyer who has represented over 100 of Epstein's victims, that for Jeff Epstein, it was common to have children between the ages of 14 and 17, and sometimes young women above 18 around him. And in fact, it was common that they would age out. Epstein liked girls at the age of 14. That was his favorite. And of course, they were around him. But the fact that they were around and he doesn't want to, remember, he could have said just the answer to that is yes. Socialize, being around someone isn't illegal, but he didn't even want to answer that question. You have to ask yourself, why wasn't Donald Trump ever interviewed? Now, I want to share with you what I mentioned. Really fantastic interview with Bradley Edwards, the lawyer who represents hundreds of Epstein victims. It was on Lawrence last night, and he broke some news. First of all, he confirmed that he believes this birthday book, which is a compilation of letters, including the one from Donald Trump to Jeff Epstein on his 50th birthday. He confirmed a few things. First, that it exists. Secondly, some of his clients have seen it, and even some of them worked on helping compile the birthday wishes in this. And third, most significantly, he said it's really easy to get because he believes it's in the custody of the estate of Jeff Epstein. Two law firms are the executors, so he believes it's in one of the two law firms' hands. He thinks Congress should go ahead and subpoena it from those firms. I hope a congressional committee gets to it before the Department of Justice does. Now, it's also possible that Pam Bondi already has it in her possession. Let us play that interview now.
Go to that book because with your familiarity with evidence against Jeffrey Epstein, which you've collected a lot of through the discovery process, what do you know specifically about that book? Do you know that the estate, the relatives of Jeffrey Epstein, in effect through their lawyers, are in possession of that birthday book?
Yes, I know that the executors of the estate are in possession of that book. And I think that after they turn it over, it should probably be set in the Smithsonian as an artifact at this point in time. It's going to go down in history so that the world can see this book, and they'll know who were Jeffrey Epstein's best friends at the time, what letters did his family write to him, what other pictures are in there, things of that nature. Redact victim names, release the book, and move on. So that's it. Yes, the executors have it.
So you've just identified, not just for the news media, but obviously for House representatives who are now in a mood to subpoena, and also Todd Blanche and the Trump Justice Department, who suddenly are getting curious about investigating this. You've now told them exactly, according to your knowledge, where the birthday book is, who is in possession of that book. And all the House representatives would have to do tomorrow is write up a subpoena for that book, and you believe that it would be the lawyers involved would comply with that subpoena?
I know the executors' lawyers. I've worked with them for years. They're good people. They're good lawyers. They would comply with the subpoena immediately. It's something that we could solve this problem so quickly if people actually want to solve problems.
So I encourage you to watch the full interview with Edwards. He talks about what the victims he's spoken to are going through. They want everything released, everything, except they want their names redacted. They're going through further trauma right now. They hate that this is being politicized. They want this information out there. No more games. So let's talk about who's working on getting the information out there. Now, you know, as we talked about, that Congress has recessed until like September 8th or 9th. And that Mike Johnson did everything he could by sending them home early so that the Rules Committee could not allow what would get a majority of support, could not allow a vote on the whole House floor concerning the Epstein files. However, what happened yesterday was a miracle. There is a House committee. Remember, the House leadership in every committee is dominated by Republicans. So, but despite that, Summer Lee, who is a Democrat on the House Oversight Committee, was able to rally together her Democratic colleagues, as well as enough Republicans to get that committee to vote to subpoena from the Department of Justice the entire Epstein files. So I want you to hear about how that went down. And you'll see people's names like Nancy Mace, the Republican who signed on to this. And you might wonder, how did that happen? So I'm going to play this clip with Brian Tyler Cohen and Summer Lee talking about how that went down. Here we go.
Confident that the files that are released are going to be the full files as opposed to just what she deems appropriate.
So listen, you can never be confident that people who are prone to corruption won't do corrupt things, right? But what I will say is that in our motion, we accounted for that, right? We requested very specifically the unredacted, full, complete files. In fact, Nancy Mace actually tried to amend the motion. And what her amendment was trying to do was add a word credible to it, right? So she wanted to add within the words that we had already like meticulously chosen. She attempted to add just one word, credible. Higgins also really hard. He was like, look, it's one word. Why are you all worried about one word? But we're like, well, legally, who decides what is credible? Right? Whose standards, are we going to implement here, right? Ultimately, that amendment failed. So as of right now, based on our subpoena, it should be the full, unredacted files, complete. There is no subjectivity. There is no, well, this is the part that I would like, or this is the part that I think might be credible, or the part that I think might be pertinent. None of that. We asked for we requested, it is a mandate to get the full, complete ones.
So that is great. I'm hoping what she means by that is they won't release anything to the public, though, without the victims' names redacted. Okay. So just to go through what's happening now, the dams are breaking. Again, in the history of time, the most powerful men are rarely, if ever, ultimately held accountable. I mean, we look at, where I want to stand with this is we fight for the victims. We fight for truth. We don't give up, even if the outcome doesn't yield what we hope. And yet, at the same time, this is the first time Donald Trump cannot control the narrative. And it is getting so bad that we now have Pam Bondi hiding out, not going to a CPAC conference. Now, she has a medical excuse. Okay, sure. Let me play this for you.
Some news from the Attorney General's office.
I do. Thank you very much. And thank you all for being here with us today and having me. I do have a note from the Attorney General, from Attorney General Pam Bondi, that I wanted to share, which is the following. I'm sorry to miss all of my CPAC friends today, especially Matt and Mercy Schlapp, Senator Blackburn, and the wonderful team at the Tim Tebow Foundation. Unfortunately, I am recovering from a recently torn cornea, which is preventing me from being with you. I truly wish I was able to join you and support all of the work being done on this critical issue.
Okay, first of all, she could have gone, I'm sure. But what do I know? I've never had a torn cornea. I know that you probably need a cold compress, and maybe you should not be using that eye. You could, if it really mattered to you, phone in. You could phone it in. Just talk to them, but of course that's not what she wants to do. When I hear the name Matt Schlapp, though, in the context of anything having to do with sex abuse, I have to remember that he's been credibly accused of sexual harassment by men. But anyhow, let's just get back to where I want to go with this. Donald Trump has been freaked out about this since May. And he's known that he's in the files. And let me just share with you, again, I'd mentioned this, but I had not shared the video, when he lied, like last week on the tarmac.
The Attorney General briefed you on the DOJ and FBI review, the findings of that review. The Attorney General briefed you on that.
What? On the
DOJ and FBI
On what?
review.
On what subject?
Epstein.
Okay.
On Epstein, of the review of the files. Attorney General Pam Bondi.
A very quick briefing.
Did she tell you, what did she tell you about the review? And specifically, did she tell you at all that your name appeared in the file?
No, she's given us just a very quick briefing. And
No, she's just given us a very quick briefing. What an utter load. Let me play this. We'll add this.
Credibility of the different things that they've seen. And I would say that, these files were made up by Comey. They were made up by...
Okay. So that explains when you know what he knew and that he already knew it. These files were made up by Comey and Obama. It's not credible. It's because there are allegations against him and other high-powered men. Now, or at the very least, he's mentioned numerous times. Now, the thing is, you note that what we're hearing, the language we're hearing out of the Justice Department is that, or the language we're hearing from Trump supporters is this is just unverified hearsay, which is really kind of funny because the word hearsay, we may use it as a layperson, but hearsay means in a legal context an out-of-court statement used, so a statement made outside of court, used in court to support the truth of a statement made. Let me just say this different. If you're trying to put in evidence, you have someone on the stand and they want to say, Michael told me this. Well, that would be an out-of-court statement, right? Made to, or I heard this from this person. And there's all kinds of, without getting into the complexity of hearsay, of course, a document that you are reading, if you wanted to bring into evidence into a courtroom, an email or the contents of an interview, that might be, hearsay. Doesn't mean it cannot be admitted, first of all. Second of all, we know, and I just want to reiterate this, that there were seized from Epstein's home in New York video discs that were labeled young Jane Doe, and then it would say and there was a name of some man. My question is, whose names are on there? Are these, okay, so that is, in addition, there is so much we need to know, and I'm just hoping that this committee works to get this. I'm hoping that this committee continues, even if Congress is in recess, that committee can continue its work. And let's see. I imagine Pam Bondi is going to defy the subpoena, and then we will have to see what the Supreme Court has to say. This is serious. Donald Trump is absolutely freaking out about this. He cannot change the subject. He just can't. And if he just released everything, he could just say, well, this part was planted, that part was planted. He could just lie about it and his supporters would believe him. So it must be pretty damn bad. And there must be very wealthy people who are still living. If you're talking about over 100 people mentioned, we cannot have a government that relies on secrecy around something so serious, and we cannot have a society where some of the most powerful people who could be pulling the strings are easily blackmailed. We don't know who on that list is supporting Trump's campaign. We don't know. We need to have everyone unmasked. And if they're mentioned there as just having an iced tea or lemonade with Jeff Epstein, let them explain that. But enough hiding. That is my point of view. Now, we started the show talking about how when people and universities and other institutions, law firms are capitulating, don't be like them. That was on my mind because, as I'm sure you have heard, Columbia University just agreed to pay over $200 million to settle charges with Donald Trump's administration. And the pretext is they claim that this is because Jewish safety was threatened at Columbia during protests. I am so sick as a Jewish American to be used as a coin to be manipulated in order to suppress speech, to harm students and faculty members at Columbia. They have agreed to end any diversity, equity, and inclusion hiring. This is terrible. I could go on and on. So I want to share with you, though, they're claiming, and you hear Harvard defending itself, saying, you're telling us you're cutting billions of dollars from us because of anti-Semitism. But what does cutting this or that have to do to correct that, right? It's all about they're using anything as a pretext to control the most, which were the most independent institutions. Harvard's motto is veritas, truth. So they're still fighting. Columbia capitulated. Let me share with you, Linda McMahon, head of the Department of Education, she's not hiding. She has dropped the mask to make clear that this is about silencing voices that are not in line with the Trump agenda. Let's play this.
I think that this is a monumental victory for conservatives who've wanted to do things on these elite campuses for a long time because we had such far left-leaning, professors, and we had 27% of the students that are coming in, are from outside of the United States. I think that's one of Harvard's stats. And so Columbia is clearly on board. I'm really pleased with this victory. It wouldn't have happened if Donald Trump were not president, and I'm really pleased to execute his vision for this, that our campuses are now they're what they should be. They're places for debate. They're places for education. They're not places for left-leaning riots and anti-Semitism And I'm really pleased with this result.
Well, you should be. I mean,
I'm really disgusted with this result. I feel for my friends who are faculty members there. I feel for people who have a degree from Columbia. I wouldn't be proud of my degree from Columbia if I had one. So good for South Park, good for Harvard, good for the law firms who have stood up to Donald Trump. Now, I want to add something. I want to, right now, share with you something. We're taking a little bit of a turn to Prism. You know our theme, and I'll get back to Donald Trump in a second, guys. You know one of our big themes on this show is Prism. Physical health, relational health, intellectual health, spiritual health, and mental health. This was a concept I came up with one morning many months ago, right before the show. And it's so important for us. And that's why if you're new here, we call ourselves, everyone here, Prism Mates. I'm encouraging you, please, to, if you like the show, to like and subscribe for free. We're about to get, in a few weeks, up to our 1-year anniversary. Okay, so let me talk to you about Prism. Prism has basically infiltrated our existence. We're working on health on so many levels. And you also know that, let me just say, you also know that we have a mascot on this show named Tank. And you might know where this is going, but I want to share a picture of Tank eating his breakfast. Well, what I want to tell you about Tank is a huge Prism fan. And Tank also loves to wear costumes. So if you are ready, if you are actually ready for it, because I don't know if you're ready entirely for this, but we are going to see the show mascot, Tank, wearing a dinosaur costume, crocheted dinosaur costume, where the spikes are the points on the dinosaur's back. I guess it's a Tankosaurus. We're going to look at a Prism Tankosaurus. First, I'm going to show you a still, and then I will show you a video of Tank moving around. Okay, here we go. There is Tank. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? I am incredibly honored that Tank is working on his physical health, relational health, intellectual health, spiritual health, and mental health. You might wonder who made this. And I'm not going to unmask the real name of the person, but let me give you context. It's a huge fan of the show whose mother is aging and needs at-home caregiving. And the lovely caregiver watches this show every morning. Hi, Mom. Hi, Tank's grandma. And the lovely caregiver, again, I don't want to mention names here, watches the show and decided it was time for Tank to have a prison dinosaur costume. So there is Tankosaurus. Now, I think you want to see Tank walking around in his costume. I know I do. Let's play that. Here's Tank. Look at Tank has to do the vacuuming. Poor Tank, just like us. Oh my God. Oh my God. So cute. Pridosaurus, and okay, fine. It's Pride, but it's also Prism. Yay! Oh, guys, that makes me so flippin' happy. Okay, so I want to add to something now. We have a situation where Donald Trump has thrown everything at the wall to distract people, including this prospect of treason charges or any kind of criminal charges against Obama. And although those would never stand up in court, doesn't mean they won't try to distract and indict him. And so what I want to share with you is Jessica, well, I think this is right. Okay, so I just want to say to you that is not going to stand up. Now, what I also want to share with you now, I've got two more clips for you. I've got Jessica Tarlov on Fox News talking about the craziness coming out of the Trump administration. And then I want to talk to you about what it means that Trump's lawyer, Todd Blanche, the Deputy Attorney General, I mean, he used to be Trump's defense lawyer. Now he is Deputy Attorney General. Pam Bondi is the AG. Todd Blanche, the Deputy Attorney General. That Todd Blanche is going to visit Ghislaine Maxwell in prison. Let's talk about that. Now, first, I want you to listen to the only sane voice on Fox News.
I am excited for, if it happens, it'll be primetime entertainment, the cage match between Tulsi Gabbard and Marco Rubio, because Marco Rubio was the lead senator on the bipartisan intel committee, and their report found Moscow's intent was to harm the Clinton campaign, help the Trump campaign after Trump became the presumptive nominee, and undermine the U.S. democratic process. That is the same thing also that Tulsi Gabbard spoke to when she was on Joe Rogan's podcast in 2018. There's also video footage of Barack Obama himself saying it, saying that no machines were altered. They did not hack the infrastructure, but they tried to do an influence campaign, which we have all acknowledged. Sometimes I think, like, what day is it? What year is it?
Democrats?
What?
Have all, you said we've all acknowledged.
Well, Marco Rubio, I believe, is a Republican, and he's one of the more important ones. He has 85 roles in the administration, and he was the lead Republican who found that as well.
Okay, so what Jessica Tarlov is getting at is the fact that if they try to, and because Donald Trump is trying to claim that Barack Obama interfered in the 2016 election in some kind of illegal way and that he is therefore committed treason. We've been through the treason statute, doesn't even come close to election interference. Treason only works if you're giving aid and comfort to an enemy, which is someone, a nation we are at war with, not just a mere adversary. And for sure, Barack Obama was not trying to help Russia. Anyway, it's a joke. And Tarlov is pointing out, good luck, because Marco Rubio, when he was senator, came up with the same conclusion. Barack Obama never claimed what Gabbard is saying he said. He always made clear there was no evidence of tampering. So, good luck to all of you. Now, the next thing I want to talk about, again, before we get to Crazy Town, is how inappropriate it is that one of Trump's political appointees, as opposed to career prosecutors, is going to meet with Ghislaine Maxwell in prison. Now, we're hearing that Ghislaine's saying that she has new evidence, new information. This woman has been, in addition to being found guilty involving child sex trafficking, she was also found guilty of perjury for testimony or depositions that she made in connection with civil cases, civil lawsuits. So this is not someone to be trusted. Now, some folks have said, and I've seen this in the chat and elsewhere, they should bring, that meeting should only happen if it's videotaped. And I got news for you. They're not going to do that. But if they do, it wouldn't be credible anyway, because why wouldn't they first have a conversation with her, settle on what the agreement was off camera, and then have an interview on camera that looks like it's all kosher? So the bottom line is the purpose of Todd Blanche going there is to obviously make sure that nothing about Donald Trump is ever exposed. That's why he's going there. So I want to share with you Senator Sheldon Whitehouse talking about how outrageous Todd Blanche meeting with Maxwell is.
First, just how very bizarre it is that the Deputy Attorney General of the United States is going out to do a witness interview. It really raises the question whether he's doing that in the role as Deputy Attorney General of the United States, or if he's stepping back into his role as Trump criminal defendant and having kind of a Tom Hagen moment with this particular witness. One really obvious question for Ghislaine Maxwell: the Wall Street Journal reporting about the birthday book for Jeffrey Epstein, to which Trump contributed a letter. The Wall Street Journal report on that is that Ghislaine Maxwell put that book together. If she put that book together, she knows about that Trump letter. She may have stories about how she obtained the Trump letter. Perhaps she went over to meet with him to get the Trump letter. Perhaps they joked about stuff as he filled in his name where the pubic hair of the drawn woman would be. All of that is a very immediate question for her, given the Wall Street Journal reporting. There's obviously tons more that she knows, but that's something that's very, very immediate. And if they're not asking about that while the president is denying that this letter even exists, then it clearly is more of a cover-up effort than an investigation effort.
It's both an investigation to further a cover-up, so it's kind of a combo. But I know what the senator is getting at. It is now time, my friends, for a little crazy town. We deserve it. Just getting a little dancing in here. Okay. Crazy town today is Donald Trump, who was speaking at some AI event because he's making a victory lap because he signed into law 2 different pieces of legislation, the Genius Act and the Clarity Act, both of which suck. We can talk more about that later. We've talked a little bit before in the run-up to their passage. And even as he's trying to talk about how he thinks this is good for the United States business, he can't get Zoran Mamdani off his mind. This is the guy who is a Democratic nominee for mayor of New York. And I think Donald Trump is feeling like he got Columbia University, major university in New York City, to bow down to him. Now he wants control of all of New York, right? Because he was never really liked in New York. He was laughed at, he was tolerated, he was partied with, and in the case of Epstein, he was being a pedophile in New York. And he was union busting, he was raping women. He's a terrible man in every way. And he's upset when there is a genuine voice that wants to help the people, anything about things like, anything that he would deem as socialism, the good things we have, public schools, public roads, public libraries, social security, all these things that are good, that help the general welfare, are things that Donald Trump hates. He wants people to be destitute and begging for him to save them. It's disgusting, and this is why this is on his mind. It's crazy. Let's play it.
To join us in rejecting poisonous Marxism in our technology. It'll be very interesting to see what's happening in New York.
Wait, poisonous Marxism in our technology? I gotta, as opposed to the fascist plan to have AI take over the world. Okay, let's play this.
Companies to join us in rejecting poisonous Marxism in our technology. It'll be very interesting to see what's happening in New York, because they're actually thinking of electing a communist in New York. They like to call him a socialist. He's not a socialist, he's a communist. But don't worry, you're going to be okay. He still has to get his money from the White House, and that's not going to happen until he shapes up.
So one of two things is going to happen. J.D. Vance is going to be advanced, and there is going to be an internal coup to push Donald Trump out, or he's going to keep acting crazy like he is until hopefully there's another election or he ages out of this universe. So it is possible. I want to add this. There's something going around, and I think the dates were wrong. You see a lot of articles saying that days before the Wall Street Journal broke the story about the birthday book, that J.D. Vance went out to visit Rupert Murdoch. But actually, if you look at the articles, he went and visited. If you actually click through to the original AP story, it appears that he went out and visited him like J.D. Vance took a mid-June trip to like maybe Park City, Utah, or I don't know where, somewhere, wherever, which is kind of, ironic. But J.D. Vance went to visit Murdoch. And, at the time when people kept saying it was, when people were saying, here, let's go. It was Montana, not Park City. But anyway, so the story was posted. J.D. Vance made a brief trip to Montana to speak to Rupert Murdoch and Lachlan Murdoch. And the date of that was June 11th, even though people are acting as if it happened right before the Wall Street Journal broke the story. I'm not sure why. But now that we know that Donald Trump was informed in May that his name was in the Epstein files, is it possible that the reason why J.D. Vance made that trip out there was to build a relationship for his own future? Was it just to give them a warning? I have no idea, but that becomes even more suspicious. I know that Donald Trump would be very upset if he thought J.D. Vance was arranging an internal coup. Now, it would be very difficult to do this, even under the Constitution, because I don't think Donald Trump's cabinet would turn against him and support J.D. Vance, unless, of course, they actually saw what is in the Epstein files. And with that, my friends, I will see you tomorrow morning. Enjoy your day. Look out for news dropping, because it's going to drop and drop and drop. Love you guys. Have a great day.
Hello, Prism mates. It's the Gen Taub show where welcome everyone. Let's learn about what is happening in politics yesterday and today. There was hope, and we are together in this democracy we work for. And again, welcome to the Gen Taub show. Hello, Prism mates. It's the Gen Taub show where welcome everyone. Let's learn about what is happening in politics yesterday and today. There was hope, and we are together in this democracy we work for. And again, welcome to the Gen Taub show. Hello, Prism mates. It's the Gen Taub show where welcome everyone. Let's learn about what is happening in politics yesterday and today. There was hope, and we are together in this democracy we work for. And again, welcome to the Gen Taub show.